super smooth 98.1 FM. It's gone 29 minutes now before we hit the 7 o'clock mark. It is the 18th of October, and it is time for us to get into business. As I make welcome this morning, Daisy Erharhire, customer representative specialist at Raven Bank. Good morning to you, Daisy. How are you? You would have to unmute.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Good morning. How are you doing? Hope you can hear me now.
I'm well, thank you. I can hear you, and others can also hear you. So you're good for business. Let's set the agenda if you're ready. But we'd like the listeners to know they can be part of this conversation by leaving us a WhatsApp message relating to whatever we shall be speaking on this morning on Business Express on 0809-444-0981 will be where we like to read those WhatsApp messages our clients are listening. So let's get into this one this morning. It is all about the federal government's initiating a program to provide conditional cash transfer to 15 million households in the country. And that was done yesterday. And one is wondering, what is the purpose of this conditional cash transfer program launched by the President, Bola Atsenuwa? It's money we're talking about right now.
Okay, so yes. So the president has decided to come up with this initiative called the conditional cash transfer to address poverty within our country, right? Yes, we all know that since we've been born for as long as we can remember, poverty has been one major challenge that we've been facing in this country, right? And as a result of, yesterday happens to be the International Day for Eradication of Poverty. And so he decided to use that day to launch this initiative, as it's been a major concern for them as a country, as a president. So in this administration, he wants to use the opportunity to start tackling it gradually, because the truth is, as looking at this here so far, we can see that there've been increments in our cost of living, in surviving basically as a Nigerian. For some of us, yes, we've been able to, manage it, move alongside with the whole increment. For some other persons in the local areas, in the rural areas, it's been difficult. So they end up having to make decisions that affect their lives in the long run. So this is just an initiative to just gradually start mitigating this issue from this point, which I believe is actually a good one, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes as well. So yeah, that's basically what the conditional cash transfer is supposed to do. Yeah.
Before we drift away to other areas of the conversation, I see the term, the way it's coined. I've heard, when you fill out forms sometimes, and when organizations send out publications, they tell you terms and conditions apply. So I'm just going to let us stick around this, the way it's coined, okay. Conditional cash transfer. So are there any conditions? Are there some conditions attached as the name sounds to getting this money?
Yes, so definitely you have to have certain merits for you to have access to this fund. So according to Betty Edo, she stated that part of the conditions that will be used to allocate these funds to the individual households affected would be to carry out a verification process, which will include BVN, NIN, and location, but where these individual households are located, which is a good place to start. But I feel that other criteria should also be included as well. Just to digress a little bit, something similar to what Brazil did. They also had this initiative as well, Bolsa Familiar or something of that title, yeah. And one of the merits for you to have access to those funds was to ensure that your children were going to school and they had to meet a cutoff mark. So for us, the cutoff mark would be BVN, NI verification, and location as well. And I'm hoping that as they proceed, they'll probably include other merits, because I feel that there will be more, because just to avoid any issues along the way anyways.
So that's sounding like
condition, that's where, it comes.
And with that mention now, it seems like data would not be a problem for tracking. You mentioned NIN and BVN already. So from that standpoint, you think?
No, I don't think that. I mean, they already have our data, so it shouldn't be a problem. I just hope that they will have enough hands to carry out this whole thing, because the timeline attached to it actually looks pretty short to me. So I'm hoping that, and the total number of people are looking at is actually like pretty much. So I do hope that they'll have enough manpower on ground to just execute it within the timeline they are looking at.
Okay, this in itself, the visuals that came out from the villa yesterday was more like expecting the president to be the one who would launch this initiative. But we see that the president was represented at that launch. And what key points can they emphasize regarding the government's approach to poverty reduction? And also, when you link that up to yesterday being the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty also.
So represented by the president was Senator George Akume, who is the secretary to the government of the Federation. And at the event, which was tagged the specific word, and I'm trying to put the words together, but I can't remember at the moment. Oh yeah, at the event that was held yesterday to celebrate the international eradication of poverty, he said that, one of this eradicating poverty, reducing poverty in our system has been something that has been on the president's table, on his to-do list, and it's a major priority for him. So this is just an avenue, this is just a medium for him to like kick off something for this set of individuals that have been affected. Yes, of course, aside from the first subsidy that has actually hit them, economic shock generally as well. So he's taking this lead to ensure that, affected individuals get what they deserve, at least to manage the situation, right, and at least reduce whatever effects all of this changes so far has been happening in the system would have on them as well. So basically, he just communicated the president's intentions towards eradicating poverty in the system.
Now, in the process, was the amount mentioned that each household will be getting?
Yes. So according to what he stated, for the next 3 months, each household is expected to get 75,000 naira, which might sound too small here, but it's a starting point. So I'm guessing maybe it's going to be 25K per month, or maybe they'll just disperse the 75K at once to the households that have selected. But yes, it's a starting point there, but and at least it will cover up some expenses on their end for now. So let's just start with that and let's see how it goes.
Now, let's get the listener to be part of this conversation also by sending WhatsApp messages to the phone line 0809-444-0981. I see quite a messages that are already piling for Daisy already, but let's get into some of the meat of this conversation. So in all of this, it has been said now that how many households are expected to benefit from the cash program transfer? And what is, okay, you talked about the amount already, that's about 75,000 naira broken down in 3 months, in 3 tranches.
Yeah, I'm believing. Yeah.
Okay, so how is the government ensuring that the funds would reach the deserving beneficiaries, verification process being implemented, again, as in everything with us, how we show the vulnerable, the real households out there would be in this 15 million figure they've mentioned?
Okay, I kind of missed you, but if I get you correctly, you want to know how the government is ensuring that all of these households have access to the funds and what verification process.
I could do that. I could do that. How the government is ensuring that the funds reach the deserving families or households and the verification process.
Okay, so like I said before, part of the things that they'll be looked into is ensuring that every household that will be getting these funds, they have to ensure that they go through the verification process of ensuring that the BVN and NIN data is checked, then the location where they are situated at, right? So I want to believe that you have to be in certain kind of areas for you to be eligible to have those funds, right? And so like I also said earlier, I'm also hoping that other measures to be put in place, because location-wise might be a little bit challenging, because you might get to a particular location and you get into a household and they're like, you have more than what you expect in a household. Yes, it looks like there's a fixed spouse to each household, right? So irrespective of the number of people in your household, what is going to be allocated to you will be 25,000 naira, as long as you
Mm-hmm.
match your PVA, NIA, and your location checks for them. So I think that pretty much covers it for them. And if any other criteria will be, put in place, maybe as they proceed, it will unfold from there. But yeah,
Now,
that's
for a bystander looking at this from outside, you would imagine and ask the question: would giving out cash ever be the solution to solving the problem of poverty? Link that up to the theme of yesterday's International Poverty Eradication Day, which stated that it's all about decent work and social protection, putting dignity in practice for all.
Okay, so of course, giving out cash will not always be the solution to everything, to every problem, right? But like I said initially, is a starting point, right?
Okay.
Of course, if the government can go the extra mile to, so those, if you go to those rural areas and you discover that okay, these areas need like healthcare facilities, amenities, you can also look at implementing building structures like that in those areas as well. So at
Mm.
least that part of that issue that healthcare sector is taking care of. But for the cash, at least it's a starting point because, for instance, you have parents that, as a result of the whole increment this last few months, they've had to pull out their children from school, right? Because they have to like manage their funds. They had to maybe reduce number of times they eat in a day. So the cash goes a long way to like take care of this expensive. So children can now go back to school to an extent. Of course, and there's even increments in school fees too as well. So the government can also look at other ways to ensure that, okay, aside from giving them cash, they can also build up structures that will be beneficial to these individuals in these certain locations, right? So at the end of the day, they benefit on both ends.
Okay, and this brings me to our final question as we clear the table for business this morning. What does the World Bank representative, Shubham Chaudhry, have to say about the effectiveness of the cash transfer?
So Shubham Chaudhry, forgive me if I didn't pronounce it correctly, but yeah, so he obviously has this set of people in mind, like that category of just households that might have been affected with the economic shock within this past few months. So he believes that giving us this aid is like a good place to start with, so that individuals that have been affected in any way can to an extent fall back to something that they can always use to like manage all of this issues that they've had within the past few months, right? Like I earlier stated, he cited an example of, how parents might make decisions that will have long-term consequences, which could include removing your child from school. When you pull out your child from school, it means that that child has to stay at home longer than he should. And by the time by the time you gather the money, you decide to wait and say, oh, when I have the money, I'll take my child back to school. By the time you're taking your child back to school, the child is probably feeling too old in school and his mate has gone ahead of him. So to avoid all of those embarrassments in the future, this is just their only two way to just step into the situation and see how things unfold at the end of the day. So yeah, he does have countries that are affected and that fall in this category in mind. So yeah.
Okay. So this takes us to the messages waiting for us this morning, and they're reacting to the conversation this morning. I've got Babatunde Alao saying, I don't subscribe to conditional cash transfer. It won't solve any problem. There is super hyperinflation out there. Will they continue to pay out this cash on monthly basis? After sharing this money, what are we doing to solve the problem of high cost of living? Trader money turned out to be a scam. I hope this is or will not turn out to be the same. Next comes in this one here. This one comes in from someone without his name here, but it says the conditional cash transfer is a good initiative. I just pray it won't be bungled up like the last administration. Some developing economies have done stuff like that in the past and it worked. And then comes in Ayo. Ayo says, okay, the conditional cash transfer is an intervention long overdue. So this should be continued and data-driven as well. Some Nigerians will criticize this, but let's not forget this is regular practice in Europe and even in the US. Now, Kenneth comes in with this message for us. He says the government of any country has no business distributing funds to citizens, especially as we do not have data of the qualifying individuals. It is dubious means to loot our Commonwealth. Focus on strengthening framework for businesses to thrive. That's Ken. And Tayo sent in this one with this round of palliative that government is intending to share. I hope they are still working on track of delivering the oil refinery promised to us by December 2023. Because what's the point of cashing out when you can't improve on your capacity to grow? I have BVN, NIN, and all other N. Please, where do I apply for my 75K? Daisy, questions for you this morning. Abdulkadir is our final message.
They should be patient. They should be patient. They should just have at least once it was would definitely be following the news, but by the time the president shares more details on how we can get access to the funds, we'll find a way.
Daisy, you don't look like you will be in that vulnerable category. Your household, no way. Stay out of it.
We all love free money. We all love free money, whether we are in that category or not. I mean, there's just something. There's always excitement when someone just calls you and gives you, free cash out of nowhere. So I mean, I'm very, very much available to apply. So
I'll take Abdulkadir's message as the final one. He says, Madam is quite optimistic today. The CBN's e-Naira app would have worked well for this disbursement, as Fisaya, one of our regular on the show, had said weeks back. Spending can be restricted to items approved by the federal government, as recipient can only spend on items purchased from specific vendor. That's a wrap on the show this morning, Business Express. Daisy Erharhire, it's been awesome having you help us make sense of all of this morning. Do have a great day.
Thank you so much, and you too.
Bye. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who sent in a message onto Business Express. We'll be back here tomorrow at 6:30. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.
Express.